David Osiany and I are having a very interesting conversation behind the scenes, but we can't carry it right here because our mics are off and your voice is on. Time now for Social Watch. And we have been talking to you across our social media platforms, and we've been seeking to find out on an opinion poll. And we asked, do you think the BBI offers practical solutions to Kenya's problems? Osiany, Kenyans don't seem to agree with you. 73% say no, and only 27% say yes. Okay, let's sample, you're laughing, let's sample some of the feedback. At Kiprotich Sawe says, those reading the BBI report, have you found the page touching on reducing the salaries on CSs, MPs, DP, President, Senate, Women Rep, MCAs, and all the rest? Kindly screenshot it for me, please. Osiany?
No, you see, the BBI, when the BBI talks about managing, for example, reducing the amount spent on recurrent expenditure to 30% from the current 50 to 60%. What do you think they're talking about? It's obviously going to chop off from salaries to the expenditures in offices, drinking tea, flowers and stuff like that. So it is the unspoken. And that's why I started by saying this is a proposal that will be fine-tuned, in my estimation, I hope I'm right, by a team of experts who will put it into a bill, break it down into simple points, not prose. Points. Here, period. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at another reaction. James Olekiapi says, BBI task force aborted their own report. Instead of offering clear pathways to legal or constitutional reforms, they sent the agenda back to the politicians. Net effect, grandstanding, posturing, etc. We are back to square one. In this respect, they failed a cardinal mandate.
I mean, I agree with former PS to an extent. I think it wasn't made very clear. It was left for those of us, for example, who have read quite widely about processes of policy making, including, referendums and stuff like that, who know that the next best step, based on examples from other parts of the world, is that this will have to go to a committee of experts to sieve it, get what's important, put it across, or to mix the, some of those things may not be credibly done. So they have to look and say, no, this, as proposed, will not be able to work. So it may not have aborted, but they should have stated then, so that it doesn't look obvious, because Kenyans may not understand it obviously. They should have stated then, from here, this is the pathway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at another. At Okta Riote says, the whole BBI did not come up with any solutions to making health affordable to Kenyans, but they had time to write about how prime ministers will supervise other ministers because we will elect a dead president, or is it,
Read the BBI. Don't postulate or pontificate about it without reading. The BBI states that there will be a patient's Bill of Rights, where it actually anchors up to and including the cost of Medicare in private and public hospitals, and that people will not be forced. One, the bill has to be explained to you. This unscrupulousness around tucking in bills in hospital that people don't know. Can you imagine? That's in the BBI. I feel bad when people don't read. So I want to urge our listeners, read the BBI. Criticize after reading.
But
it really defends
also
the rights of the healthcare workers and tries to ensure that it proposes to reduce significantly amounts spent in healthcare, which ties in with the universal health coverage that's part of the Big Four agenda.
So when politicians are debating about the BBI, should we put a pause referendum and parliamentary system and spend more time breaking down the BBI for Kenyans?
Absolutely. Besides the political issues around BBI, can we get to the core issues that affect the day-to-day lives of men in this country? Do they understand what the Health Service Commission is? Have you translated it to them to know that what it will do is to ensure we don't have the strikes by nurses and doctors, because they'll be better managed than they have been managed under the devolved structures, to ensure we don't have these hiccups, that they'll be better remunerated, that the community health volunteers will be taken care of in terms of payment, so that we have better health care provision at the primary level.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's take a look at another tweet at Shiko Kihika says, we were told to read the BBI for ourselves. Well, it's okay, we will. But we had no hard copies. So if you do not have a smartphone or cannot access the internet, then you are not the target audience. If you cannot read English, also BBI is not for you.
That's
Good morning,
a lie.
people.
That's a lie. For a country where all parents have to download the results on the internet, that's a lie. Thank you, Shiko. Let's be honest.
Osiany, do you want to tell me that if we go out in the streets right now, every single Kenyan has a smartphone and will know how to get a copy of the BBI?
That's not the truth, but does every Kenyan read? Let's be honest. Does every Kenyan read, or suddenly now all Kenyans want to say that they really love reading? I expect Shiko, who is on Twitter, to be able to have read this document and broken it down. If you have a device that can go to Twitter, you obviously have a device that can read the report.
Think of it, maybe she's speaking on behalf of the Kenyans that are not on Twitter.
Which is why she should be the one informing them. Listen, I know it feels nice to be a critiquing nation. It feels nice to be on the other side criticizing every day. It feels better, though, to provide solutions. If I were Shiko, I'd say, I have downloaded this. I agree with her point that the BBI report needs to be translated into Kiswahili for easy perusal and reading by everybody. To that extent, I agree. But to say that, oh, it is only for those who have smartphones, access internet, in this country, you cannot print the calling letter for your child, even if you come from Samburu, Emurua Dikiri Primary School, today. Magoha ensure that you must go and print it on internet. So are we committed enough to country to the extent of wanting to read?
Okay. Okay, very interesting views right there. Let's move to WhatsApp. Advelin Baraz says, I don't see where a common Kenyan is benefiting. Leave alone the political shenanigans. What is there exactly? What is in the 2010 constitution? This is another drama and a way to spend taxpayers' money. Huduma number censors and now BBI referendum. Punda anaumia aki.
Tumuza Punda. I actually, no, I understand the Kenyan problem. BBI will not solve all our problems. Let's agree to it. There are problems that we will fix on our own. Like, as Barack Obama said when he was campaigning, I could bring the policies that I want for our children, but I will not come to the living room and switch off TV so that they can read. Yeah. There are things that we will have to do on our own. And I agree with the Kenyans to the extent that BBI will not solve all our problems. We had hoped it would solve all our problems. It just cannot. There are those we will have to do. But do not gather it all together and throw it to the bin. There are bits of BBI that are really, really good. Okay. There are bits that may work better with a bit of tweaking, and I hope that we are able to meet that. Left as it is, it will be a divisive document. So I hope that the team of experts that will look at it, if at all there will be, will churn out those issues and try and get amicable solutions for them. Okay, let's take a look at another WhatsApp feedback. At Joshua Mushili says, here BBI ni ya politicians too. See, they're already disagreeing with it, yet hata haijamaliza wiki moja. Yeah, because politicians do politics. Those of us who do policy for the good of the country. So, and Mudavadi said, remove politicians from this. Let's make this document a document for Kenyans. Yeah. Do we have another, or do we cross over to a video comment? Okay, most of the time when we are always doing debrief, we always ask you to send us a video comment of your feedback and your thoughts about the topic of the day. And we had asked you to send us some of those videos, and here are some of the videos that you guys sent us listening.
Is a very good document. It actually acknowledges all the problems you're facing, like unemployment, corruption, family matters and all that. But the only thing it does is acknowledge. I don't feel like there's anything that has been stipulated there that says how we are going to deal with what is already happening. The Kenyan youth is complaining. Corruption is deteriorating Kenya, but what are they doing about it? Those are my thoughts.
How can we make the proposals of the BBI to be more practical for the Kenyan on the ground to be able to relate with the document? Well, that's where I think the government will need a lot of work to do in terms of hiring policy communications experts like myself and many others to break down the gist of the document. It looks like it's a very complicated document by the very nature of the world. Globally, people don't just like reading. That's why it said if you want to leave a blessing to your child, just put it in between the books. Okay. They will never be found. So
probably it needs to be broken down further. You know, you need to get information, education, and communication materials, IEC materials, do a bit of graphics, show them what is it that you're saying in this document. And in that regard, I think there's work cut out for the BBI task force itself. It's a huge gap, because without doing that, a lot of people will still hold the views and the negativity will go on, because we feed off politicians, and it seems the negative politicians have done a bit of work. But I am glad that they've watched today, so that they know that all those comments are anchored on fallacies.
Okay, now we want to go to street talk, and we always ask Kenyans, we go to the streets and we talk to them, and we ask them what are some of their views with regards to the topic of the day. And this is what you had to say in the streets of Nairobi. Listen in.
Mi sijapata kopi ya BBI, ni kusikia tu, nasikia BBI kwa news. Na sijui nini iko kwa BBI, hata sijui. Najua tu BBI ni beba baba Ikulu. Sijui anapelekwa Ikulu kufanya nini.
I've heard about BBI.
Mimi sijasikia, lakini kwa vile wale walikuwa hapo wanafanya hiyo kazi ya BBI, tuko na trust na hawa.
This is we cannot talk about this as an agreement between Raila and Uhuru, but we can say it's something that can bring Kenya together.
Nimeisikia lakini sijaisoma, kwa kusema kweli.
Sijaisoma lakini kuisikia nimeisikia.
You have read it, just a bit of the chapters.
We don't have to read the BBI. We elected our leaders, mandated them to do for us some of these duties. One of them is reading government documents like BBI. So when our leaders have read the BBI, we expect them to give us the way forward. At the same time, going through life in the university, we were not even reading notes. Why would we read BBI?
Kulingana na chenye mimi najua ni ile inclusivity. Hiyo ndo nasikia tu, but bado sijaisoma.
Bado sijasoma, nilikuwa na mpango wa kusoma nijue chenye kiko kwa BBI.
Nimesikia vile watakuwa na viti kadhaa wa kadhaa kama Prime Minister, na sasa Prime Minister atakuwa anachaguliwa na bunge from the MPs that have been elected. I have no problem with that. But the issue is mambo ya mtu wa chini, it should be addressed.
One of them is the youth. That's tax relief for the youth. If it can be implemented, I think we will have a big breakthrough in this country, because youth are suffering in this country. There's no employment. They cannot make us meet.
Nasikia mambo ya posti za Prime Minister na vitu kama hizo.
BBI it is a document which has 9-point agenda. It talks about inclusivity, it talks about corruption, it talks about ethnicity. So my interpretation about this BBI is that it's able to unite Kenyans. It's also able to give us opportunity to have good leaders.
Because I feel it is high time Kenyans stood out and be responsible, so that we can force the politicians not to take us round the circles.
Mostly it won't help, because there are so many things that the government come up with, lakini mtu wa kawaida anaendelea na kuteseka. Kama saa hii barabara nyingi imeharibika. Kama saa hii ukienda hospitali hakuna madawa.
Kwa upande wangu BBI itasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida na Mkenya kamili, wa Kenya wote, kwa Kenya wote. Kwa sababu kama hayo mambo yenye yameandikwa hapo yataweza kutekelezwa, vijana watapata ajira kupitia kwa mambo yenye yamenakiliwa.
Mimi siwezi sema itasaidia Wakenya, sababu document yenyewe kama sisi, kama mimi, kama Mkenya, mimi sijaisoma. Sasa siwezi sema itanisaidia ama itanisaidia. Kwa hivyo mimi nafikiria it's just ni politicking tu. Ni politicians ndio wata benefit.
Naona sasa vita imeisha. Ile ya mwananchi na mwananchi imeisha. Tuko sawa. na watu wote wako kwa BBI wanasema BBI iwe hivi iwe hivi, lakini hao watu wakubwa hao kama tuseme kutoka kwa president na wale wako chini mpaka na MCA wapeo nguvu dhai baba, hao watu wetu hao watu wa nini kama watu hao what do we call it, MCAs whatever, MCA ni sawa, lakini women rep tuondolewe, Senate tuondolewe, kwa sababu hao wote hakuna kitu wanafanya.
Moving forward economically, need some policies which should be done by economy specialists, not anybody who was picked because he's a president's friends or Raila's friends. So actually it might not, but we need it.
A well-constructed Kenya going forward for development.
Mimi naazimia kushikana na mambo yale yameandikwa na tuweze kuiboresha nchi yetu kwa umoja kupitia kwa hayo mambo.
Mimi siwezi sema kuna kitu naweza sema iongezwe, sababu in the first place sijui nini iko. Lakini ningeulizwa ningesema waandrezi zile mashida wa Kenya tunapitia.
Osiany, your 2 cents. 1 minute you are saying Kenyans literate, which cannot be argued with. Kenyans smartphone penetration is really good, but those are Kenyans on the street. Outside the streets of Twitter,
those are Kenyans on the street with smartphones. They refuse to read. One even knows inclusivity and ethnicity, but still says, I left that task for my MP to do for me, to read for me. The other lady does not even know what is inside there, but she says common mwananchi's problems are not being sorted out, so I don't even know what is inside there. She doesn't even know if the problems she has are addressed inside there. If she's a farmer, she should know that the BBI has proposed removing the middlemen in the agricultural sector so that then you link the farmers to the markets and increase the amount of money in their pockets. She doesn't know. The other lady, the very modest lady, says she has heard that the BBI proposes that the Prime Minister will be elected by parliamentarians. Obviously, a wrong connotation of what it is. It means she's not even informed on what the BBI ought to do or what the BBI proposes to do. Now, this is the gap we have. This is where the BBI task force has to figure out, how do we inform these Kenyans? Because David Osiany will not be on all TV stations or in all the streets to give this bit of information. However, remember that the BBI was formed on a basis of political contest and conflict. So you need to have been seen to have resolved that seamlessly. Then all these other good things will count.
Okay.
So that has to go hand in hand.
Osiany, I have about 30 seconds for you. I want you to look into camera to 2 things. How do we ensure that the BBI, you said Osiany cannot break it down for every Kenyan, but how do we ensure that by the time we are presenting it to the people to make a decision, that they will make an informed decision based on facts and not hearsay from politicians that are definitely watching out for their interests? And 2, the Kenyan economy is ailing. Mudavadi has said it. We've seen people being fired, salaries being cut into half. It's undeniable. What's in it for the Kenyan economy if the BBI is implemented and implemented well? Go.
The first question will be answered, how do we get the Kenyans to hear this and to know the salient issues in the BBI? It's very simple. The BBI task force must commit resources to educating Kenyans. Take time, run around, educate them on what they proposed versus what you captured in that document. And I know with that, done well, done in time, done quickly, we will achieve much. Secondly, the economy is ailing. I think probably Mudavadi's speech for the night was probably the best speech given. It was an endorsement of the BBI. It was a vote of confidence in the BBI. He said this document sets us on a path to go there. The BBI document proposes, as I have said in the last few minutes, for example, that the agricultural sector will be sorted out by linking the farmers to the markets. When you do that, you strengthen the economy of the farmers. There needs to be a concretized decision and policies to match the implementation of that desired policy around dealing with the farmers. The BBI proposes a 7-year tax holiday for youth who start business. You need to know that young people in this country start businesses today, and they are literally struggling and surviving to even find capital. How much harder do you think it is for them to pay 16% of tax on the profit they have made for the first time? It's very hard, because by the time they get capital, sometimes from these lending outfits, they don't know where to go. That's a brilliant idea. I, however, hope that besides that, the people who will look at this document will propose that we strengthen the presidential decree that stated that access to government procurement opportunities must be given to 30% of all government business must go to young people and people living with disability.
Okay.
There are many proposals around industry and manufacturing sector and how to deal with the economic problem in this document. I would not enlist all of them because I was told I have 30 seconds. I've taken a minute. But guys, read if you can. Read, read, read.
David, thank you for making time, and thank you for putting some of these things into context, because it's not in everyday news and political rallies that you get to hear about things, for example, the agriculture and the health sector.
The pleasure is mine.
Okay, now we want to finish the show. But before we do, as always, we must tell each other the bitter truth, or else there's no need for doing debrief. Now, during the launch of the BBI report, the president gave a very interesting remark on the Kibra elections. Listen in.
Anaruka mkutano hii, anaenda hii. Sasa nilikuwa naambia wengine, usiku ya kuhesabu kura, kuna mama mwingine rafiki yangu nilikuwa naongea na yeye, ni kampena wangu. Sasa nikampigia nikamuuliza hali huko, unajua sana sana hali huko wakati ya uchaguzi inakuwa tension juu. Nikamuuliza hali iko namna gani, mko sawa? Akaniambia sisi tuko sawa, lakini hapa Kibira ni kilio peke yake. Kamuuliza, kilio? Kwani kuna shida gani? Akaniambia, jamani uhunye, mungeruhusu hii kampeni iendelee wiki ingine 2 jameni, tukule mambo hapa, mambo ilikuwa mingi huku.
We see the president in that video acknowledging that Kenyans sell their democratic rights for as little as 100 shillings and as much as 1,000 shillings. Rights to better healthcare, education, proper sanitation, infrastructure, you name it, all just for a few pieces of silver. For the head of state to boldly laugh about that matter, yet you are here waiting for development. Nah, it's not coming. He owes you nothing, actually. For 1,000 shillings, you sold your right. And for the next 5 years, you are supposed to stay mum and enjoy what is left of your 1,000 shillings. And when you see politicians gathered in the name of BBI, think twice. Barely a week later, after the decorated speeches of uniting Kenyans, things are falling apart, folks. Just like the old script, the BBI must favor I and I alone. And so, the tug of war has begun. Parliament or referendum is just the first jab. However, in a boxing match of 12 rounds, buckle up, we have 11 more rounds. But come to think of it, what's new about BBI? As Boni Halwale put it on a tweet, he says the contents of the BBI have been captured before. Let's go through that tweet. BBI is a fat waste of time and money looking for answers for questions that already have answers. 1, electoral injustice, Kregler report. Election violence, Waki Commission report. The third one is National Unity, National Cohesion and Integration Act. Historical injustices, TJRC report. It's nothing new, just another casual 10 billion taxpayers' money invested in the interest of Kenyans, but for the benefit of those who know better than to place their bet on Kenyans. However, the sad bit is we've fallen prey yet again. If you look at Twitter, the trending hashtags, you'll see Uhuru Kenyatta, confused President Raila Ruto. All we do is politics. Need I say more? Well, instead of interrogating the contents of the BBI, we are busy according politicians the popularity that they very much need to stay relevant until the 2022 elections. Dear Kenyan, if 50 years later post-independence, your feet have not grown weary of dancing to the same political tune of hierarchy politics and zero development, then you'll have to wait longer before food security, affordable housing, universal health coverage, manufacturing, and quality education is achieved. May the God that has given you the stamina to persevere the first 50 years grant you the very grace to go through the next. My name is Ondioro Oganga. Have a good evening.